Hey, in today's video I wanted to talk to you about how to develop a new product. Developing a new product is not the same as developing an existing product. You have to take very different things into account when you are working with existing products where you already have customers, that you have to make sure that you keep them happy, that you're not losing them, at least that you're not losing too many of them. Whereas when you are building a new product, you sometimes have to find an audience for that product. So it includes things like market research and so on. So let's get into it, and let's go today into a deep dive of what creating a new product means, or what are the aspects that you have to take into account when creating new products. If this is interesting for you, please comment below and let me know if you would like to have a follow-up video where I talk about how to develop existing products that have already customers. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Juan. I have been working in tech companies for over 20 years now, and I have been in product leader positions like product director, CPO, and so on since 2017. And I have worked both with existing products and I have also developed new products from scratch. So when it comes to developing new products, there are going to be things that you have to pay attention to. The first one, obviously, that you have to find a problem that users have. You have to find an audience, that people that had that problem, and eventually you want to create a profitable business. And you cannot work on this alone. You have to work also with these potential customers, understanding and build the product for them. But let's go now through all the different aspects that are going to help you build a successful new product, or as successful as possible. At least take into account all the different aspects that are going to get you closer to build a successful product, because there have been a ton of products out there that potentially were building or solving problems that people have, which had not been successful. So there's no real magic formula that is going to guarantee that you're going to build a successful product. But there's steps and there are processes that are going to ensure that you're making the best that you can to build a successful product. So now let's go through all the different steps that you had to follow. First one probably is obvious to you, but you had to find a problem that people have, that your customers have. Whether your customers are consumers or their businesses, they have to have a problem. Your product is going to solve that problem. You have to validate that the problem is real, that people have this problem, and that they actually need a solution, and that they want to pay for this solution. Very important to make a successful business. You can use things like surveys or market studies to help you understand better if this problem exists and who has it. Together with this, you have to make sure that you are defining the current audience of the people that had this problem. Who are those profiles, those user personas, those people that had the problem? Understand them really well. This is part of your market research. This is part of the validation that is going to help you understand that, hey, am I building a product for software engineers? Am I building a product for millennials? Am I building a product for people that like to travel? Whatever your product or the problem that you're solving are, you are going to be having different audiences. Then you have to start ideating a potential solution. You are going to work mostly on your own, but it's very important that if you have done your investigation, if you have done your research on who those people are that are going to have that potential problem, let's say people that want to travel and you're building whatever is the product that you're building to help them through their travels, while they are traveling, probably is a better solution, better way of saying it. But you're building that product to help them while they're traveling, and you want to work with some of those people in that potential audience. Why? Because they're going to help you validate that the solution that you're building is actually addressing the problem. It's also going to help you validate if this is something that they would use regularly, if this is something that they are interested, something that they would tell to other people, and something that they maybe potentially be willing to pay for. And you don't have to work with many of them. You have to find a few that you can work in a regular basis. When you need to validate more in a wider way with a wider audience, you can do surveys. You can try to find in different social media groups, for example, in Reddit, find groups of people that like traveling, and try to potentially get like a survey where you could get information or you could get feedback on what you're building. The next one is that you want to do a competitor analysis. You want to understand what competitors are there, what are they doing, who are their audiences, what is the value proposition. What is value proposition? Value proposition is the key value or the key benefits that their customers are getting from using that tool or that product. You want to understand that very well because you potentially don't want to exactly build what they are building, because then you end up in a competition problem or a competitor problem, where then is how do you differentiate, where the question is about how do you differentiate from those competitors. You want to make a product that is different, that it has what it's called a unique selling point, that is different from the others, that is going to outcompete potentially those competitors and finds its own niche of customers that is actually solving their problems really well. So now that you have done the planning phase of your product, now you start going into the execution. Now you understand a little bit better what the problem is, what the potential solution could be, who your audience is, and what are the competitors. Now you are in the moment of starting the execution part of your product, sometimes also called as delivery or development. Although delivery is very often used also for the moment that you're actually delivering your product to the customers. So now, first thing that you had to do is start working on what's known as your MVP, your minimum viable product, meaning that you're going to work in a product that has a limited set of features, that is not going to do everything that it has to do actually to solve the problems in a, let's say, production way, in a way that people would use it regularly, but you want to build something that it tests that your assumptions about the solution that you're building and the potential problem that you're solving, or rather the other way around, that your problem exists, the problem that the customers have exists, and the solution that you're building is actually the correct, or is going in the correct direction. This is what you want to do with your MVP. And you don't want to release your MVP directly to everybody. You want to work with a certain audience. There are different stages or different types of MVP. I'll link a video up here if you want to take a look into what those are. But with your MVP, what you're going to do is build that initial product. Is going to be a simple set of features that you want to work with those initial potential customers to validate that the solution and how you're solving that problem is the correct one. This, for example, can be for that product for traveling people who are traveling. What the set of features it is, I don't know exactly, but basically you had to define what is that initial feature set that your product is going to have and actually implement it. And I wouldn't go into the finest implementation. I will go with something initially relatively rough, but that you can test with those initial potential customers. You are not probably going to sell this product at this point. You just want to test. You just want to make sure that the solution that you're building is the correct one for the problem they have, and that is going in the direction that they understand it. You have to pay attention to a certain degree to product design. How is the product going to work? How the experience for the users is going to be, even if it's still on the rough side. So MVPs basically are a tool to validate your solution. Whereas when you're doing market research, those are tools to validate the problem. Part of the building the MVP, what you're going to do is prioritizing. You have to prioritize all the different features that you think that your product should have. You probably have a ton of ideas of things that you should have that are going to be super cool and very good experiences for your users in the long term. Hopefully you have them. And once you have them, you have to start prioritizing. What are the things that you should do at the first stage? What are the things that you really need to put in your MVP? What are the things that will come later? What are those features that will come in later stages? If you want to know more about how to prioritize, go take a look at this video when you finish with this one. But basically, when you're prioritizing, what you want to make sure is that you are getting the features that are a must for your product, that they're non-negotiable, that you need to have. There might be some technical requirements that obviously you need to have. And there's going to be also things that you can prioritize. Things like, for example, how much impact, how much value this feature is going to build or create for my customers, and how much versus how much effort is going to cost me to implement it. Once you do this, you can start creating and developing a roadmap according to those priorities that you have set. Roadmaps, something that is very important, something that you probably are familiar with and you have heard about. Roadmaps are very important and something that you really have to pay attention how you lay them out, because it's going to tell to your development team or to yourself if you are building the product in which stages you are going to be developing different features of your product. If you want to know more about how to develop roadmaps, again, I have a video about it. Once you have those initial MVPs that you have tested, that your solution is good, that is moving the right direction, that is solving the problem that the customers have, you have to start building the first versions of your product, which probably are still going to be some kind of an MVP. They're not going to be maybe yet the product or the official product launch. And here you have to look, as I would work typically, is that I like to release this in a gradual way. I don't necessarily want to go for a big launch. I want to make sure that I'm facing the release of the product. This can be done in different ways. And by the way, all the time you are developing and growing the MVP. The feature set that are in the MVP is based on the feedback that you are getting from those testing groups that you have. So my first testing group would be release it to the small audience, as I was saying in the previous step. Once I get the feedback, I potentially change the product based on that feedback, I will move to the next one. And here it depends on the product. I would define what are going to be maybe potentially the regions where I would like to release first, or where the industries that I want, or the user personas. It depends a little bit on who you are targeting. Industries usually is used more for when you're talking to B2B. User personas more when you're talking to B2C, so business to business, business to consumer. Again, if you want to see a video, I have one, I will link it up there to understand the difference between those terms. But the idea here is that, well, in B2B situations, you can also have user personas. So you might have a product that is for construction, but sometimes it's going to be for architects, and some other people like engineers will need a different type of feature set. So you might want to release those products in different phases. What you want to do when you're releasing this way is that you want to make sure that you're testing your product, that you're getting feedback on that MVP that you have just released, and that you are adapting the product. Sometimes the feedback is going to be completely negative. It's not what they expected. It might be that they still had the problem, but the solution is wrong. It might be that the problem is wrong. So you have to understand and learn from the potential mistakes that you have made and fix them, and try to make sure that the next iteration of the product is actually solving them maybe in a better way. It's probably never going to be a perfect solution. Just think about products that are there. Windows or Google, they have been quite many years with us now, and you could say that they are done, but they're not done. They are just releasing new versions all the time of those products. They are doing maintenance, they are doing updates, they are doing whatever they are doing. So those products are still live and they are being developed. They are in the existing product development. A topic for another video. But the idea of releasing MVPs and doing things like A/B testing potentially is going to help you to validate the assumptions and make sure that your product is getting more traction. When you're releasing these first versions of the product, even if you're still calling them MVPs, or if you had done already an official product launch, make sure that you are always doing it in a way that you are iterating and that you're testing and that you are learning and adapting your product in a continuous manner. Meaning that I release a new version of the product, I see the performance, I potentially track some data, or I potentially interview some customers to make sure that it's going the direction that it should go and that it's getting traction with existing users if I already have them. And based on the feedback and understanding that has this feature actually fixed the problem or not, or solve the problem that they have, I will adapt. If it solves it, good, I move forward. If it doesn't solve it, I have to understand why and adapt the solution or the product, or even potentially the problem that I'm trying to tackle. The next phase, and is part of this iterative process, is that you have to make sure that you identify what is known as the product market fit. But basically what it means in a nutshell to find product market fit is that you have developed a product with a set of features and a unique design potentially that it's solving a real problem that a certain audience type of customers, potential customers have, and you are doing it in, let's not say profitable way, but you are doing it in a way that you are creating a business impact, meaning that you are selling your product to that audience. It might be that you are not profitable yet because, well, companies go through very different life cycles. But you want to make sure at least that what you have is an audience that has the potential of maybe growing, or that your product has the potential of scaling up when it comes to the financial side of the product. Once you have solved this, once you have found this elusive product market fit, you can start looking into the next stages of your product. It can be many different stages. It will depend a lot on the company philosophy and the idea of what the company is doing the product for. And this can be things like a scale up, it can be a growth phase, or it can be looking for profitability. If this is a topic that you think I should dive into, what is the difference between a startup, scale up, a company that is focused on growth, and a company that is focused on profitability? Let me know. I will let you know. I will make a video about it, and I will talk about what are the aspects that are more important for one of them versus the others. Let me know in the comments below. And when it comes to do the development process to this execution phase, there's going to be many different ways of doing this. But based on my experience, and because I have worked in tech companies, one of the most common ways of doing this is using practices like certain type of agile development. It can be something like Kanban, it can be something like Scrum. Some people are going to be using other things that are not agile, for example, waterfall, something that it has existed for quite many years. And you could argue that some companies, not knowing their internal ways of working, this is very true, at least they look like they are doing it in a more waterfall way, where they are not maybe gathering the feedback from customers, and they are not maybe working in that iterative way, and they are releasing the product very rarely. There are many aspects of developing a new product that are going to be very important, but they're not going to be really that important in the very early stages of developing the product. And I want to just touch on them quickly, just to let you know that those are things that will come in time. In some cases, when you are developing a new product, this can be more important towards the beginning, and in some cases they will be more important toward later stages. The first one is product quality. I'm not going to say that product quality is not important. Very obviously, product quality is very, very important. You want to make sure that you're building products that are reliable. But while you are building a new product, probably the quality of the product is not that important, because you don't know if you're building the correct product yet. You have to make sure that first you build the right product, that you validate your assumptions. Then you can build the correct product, let's say, where you pay more attention to testing, to automated testing, to potentially even manual testing, different types of testing that you have to do when you are building your product, because you want to make sure that the product is reliable, that the product is stable, that it's not breaking, that things that used to work stop working, because these things happen. So it's important that you add that layer of quality in your product. Something that potentially in some products is not going to be that important in the beginning. In some other products, it's going to be very important from the get-go. So you will have to, if you are working, for example, with automotive, with pharmaceutical, or pharmaceutical, obviously, yes, but also if you are working with equipment that it's for a hospital, for example. All these things have very strict regulations, and quality has to be taken care from the get-go. So you could potentially test the ideas of your MVP, but you cannot release the product without having the quality. So you cannot do those two things separate. So in those cases, quality, very important from the get-go. In other cases, when you're building a product for consumers or even other industries, you might have something that it doesn't have to have the highest quality from the get-go, and you are able to find better your product market fit. And once you find that market fit and you see that this is viable, then you can start taking more care of the product quality. A good example of doing this, Tesla. Tesla had, let's say, not a lot of problems, but it has some nagging problems in the beginning. Apparently, panel gaps is the biggest problem that you could ever have in a car. I would have never thought about that, but hey, for some people it's such an enormous problem. Yes, I'm not good at cars, so don't come and tell me why you should care or not about panel gaps. I only know that they don't look great. That's the only thing I know. There might be some safety issues, maybe potentially. I have no idea. So don't bash me for this one. But there were other problems that they were having where the quality of the interior was not that great. And that's something that they have improved over iterations. You can see that the first versions of the Model S or even the Model 3 or the Model Y were more like MVPs, very working MVPs of a very high quality in many ways and quite reliable in many ways, maybe safe, maybe not that reliable in other aspects. And something that it has been improved over the years. Is it perfect? No product is ever perfect. And every product has to improve over time. The next one that I would like to touch upon is that you don't need in the very beginning a full-fledged set of metrics. You don't have to track your product every single aspect of your product. Again, this is very related to the quality. Tracking the product is very important. It's going to help you make decisions. It's not necessarily a must. If you're starting to go to a wider audience, then definitely yes. If you're working in the beginning with like 5 customers, just talk to them. It's just much faster than trying to track everything. Once you start to go into releasing first versions of your MVPs or let's say product launch, whatever you want to call it, then you start to have a set of metrics that you want to check to make sure that, well, traction is happening, that the usage is happening, that certain features are being used, and so on. And eventually, of course, you want to set up things like the R metrics. You want to be able to track that acquisition, activation, revenue, retention, and I'm forgetting one more. Referral? I think so. I have a video about them if you want to check. And these are very important because they are going to help you understand better if your product is going that direction of finding the product market fit. Something that is very important. Again, if you want to know more, check out this video. And then, as I said earlier, depends on the path of your product. You have to understand if you want to focus more then on things like scaling up, on growth, on profitability. These are things that are not that important in the very beginning, not when you are building a new product and you need to find that product market fit. You need to find that there's an audience out there that cares about the product that you're building, that they have that real problem, that they are willing to pay for it, and that audience is of, let's say, significant size that I can create a business around this product. Until then, looking for profitability probably is not there's not much point because you don't know if you're solving a real problem. Something that you have to pay attention later on. So developing a new product is quite different from developing an existing product. Most of the people I know, product people, software people that I have worked with, usually they have worked in existing products. But of course, many people have been working nowadays in startups. That's usually the very good example of working with a new product. The way of working is quite different. And this is why it's important to understand how to develop new products versus how to develop existing products, because the focus is quite different. The areas that you had to understand, that you had to work with in a, let's say, daily basis are quite different. An understanding of research, planning, execution, all these things are going to be slightly different. You can still consider that every new feature could be a new product. That's true, and it's a healthy way of thinking. Most of the companies don't do that. And something that you can learn, and something that you can adapt this model when you're building new features. Try to be more experimental, trying to understand better when you're building a new feature that really you are actually building it for the right audience, that you are solving a real problem, that you understand who is this for. This is very important and part of what many different models like Agile and others promote. If you want to know more about the whole product development process, I will link here a video for you to take a look. If you enjoyed the video, Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one. And remember, stay safe.